All right. Welcome to the Strategy Show. Dave Lockring filling in for Josh Engelman again. As we know, he is on hiatus until further notice. Shouldn't be too long. We're hoping Hurricane Florence doesn't hit too hard with Jake Harry bringing you a pretty underwhelming slate for Thursday night, Jake. There's not a lot to talk about here, but we're going to do our best to get through all of it.
Yeah, pretty underwhelming. I think that you hit it right on the head. 6 games. Some pitching options have changed since last night's that did the night shift, so that's always fun when you have to learn about new pitchers, especially when they're Jeff Brigham and Jason Vargas.
Yeah.
You've got Gonzalez on the slate. You've got Mike Leake, Oda Rizmer, Despagne. I mean, just all the marquee names you could ask for a 6 game slate. So should be
Yeah.
should be fun. Um,
Only 5 games, too.
oh, it's only 5.
Yeah.
They oh
The
they
Mets.
they took off the
So
Mets
the,
game.
well, the Mets game, they threw it in the back so it wouldn't lock. So it wasn't actually even there to begin with, since it's a doubleheader.
Oh, I see. I see.
So if you look, yeah, it says 10:07. They did it with the Phillies and Nationals 2 days ago. They just throw it at the back of the thing, and I'm not sure what it is about the way that they set up games that they couldn't just have it totally not on the slate at all. But that's what they've been
Oh
doing, where they
yeah.
just throw it on at 10 o'clock, and then read out all of the names. So that's what we've got: Steven Matz and Sandy Alcantara. Uh,
So that game. All right.
so,
So none of those players will accrue points. I'm just seeing that now. All right.
yeah,
So that's wow. All right.
yep.
Fun
So
stuff.
5 games. Now we have no Steven Matz, which he would have, potentially been a viable play here because pitching aside from that is pretty disgraceful. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll go and just jump into it, man. Yesterday Baltimore and Oakland was good to many of us. Oakland stat came through. You know what sucks about when these teams go up really early though? What sucks about that? I think about it after seeing yesterday and so many other times that this happens. I would almost rather a team, just kill you through the first 5 innings and then put up 12 runs or 15 runs in the last four because you don't have the risk of being pinch hit for. I mean, yesterday, halfway through the game,
Mm-hmm.
up by 10 runs, and everyone got pinch hit for. I mean, fortunately, I will say this. Fortunately, Mengden went 5 hitless, but he only threw 53 pitches. So nobody had a long leash pitching and even hitting yesterday. It took away some of the ceiling because they got out to such an early start.
Yeah. I mean, I saw that. I was kind of following along on the MLB.com website, and I just saw like 3 guys in a row, like bang, 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 pitch hit for, and
Yep.
I was like, well, there goes the rest of my stack. So hopefully this holds up. But yeah, it's that is frustrating. Like team gets up 10-0 and you're just waiting for them to pour it on against a terrible bullpen, and all your guys get pinch hit for. So yeah,
Yep.
that's always
Yes,
fun.
sir. You took down the mini max yesterday.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you. Yeah,
Ben Rasa was sitting in first place for a while.
oh god,
We talked before the stream. I'm in the $10. I'm sitting in 10th. Ben's sitting in first. We had a lot of awesome Mo avatars
hmm
everywhere, and we were all primed to have pretty good nights. I still had a bunch of players remaining, and of course they faded down the stretch. And of course Tim Anderson hits a extra inning home run. But the worst part was the Royals had runners on second and third, and I think it was Rosell Herrera who ends up lining into a double play, lining into a double play
God.
to kill the inning and bring the White Sox back to the plate. It could have been a much greater night, but I think Osimo for the most part did pretty well last night.
Yeah, man, that is so tough for Ben.
Really,
Just God, I was watching. I just saw the leaderboard, tagged him in Slack, and then right away the Tim Anderson extra inning dong buries him. So It's
Yeah,
definitely a bad beat for him, especially because the Royals should have closed it out. But still, probably a successful night, just not as good as he probably thought it was
right,
going to be there for a minute, and we all thought it was going to be.
right. Definitely profitable, but and then you see the guy who won the $10, the 50K on DraftKings. He had uh, no stack, no correlation, nothing. Not that there's much in baseball, but he had Piscotty and Olson. Those were his only A's. And then he had Joey Gallo. Mind you, he had no avatar either. So like this guy, I have a I have a feeling that he isn't, doing this every day. Maybe he is, but he had Joey Gallo, he had Jose Fernandez. He basically had everyone that did anything yesterday except a complete non-stack lineup.
Yeah. I mean, we always advocate for stacking. I know Alex is huge on stacking. You want to get a 4 to 5 man stack, and two of them in there if you can. If you want to go 4-4, 4-3-1, 5-3, whatever it is. But yeah, that's always frustrating. You see someone bank a huge tournament with what looks like a bad cash lineup.
Yeah. You need everything to go right. And I think he had like three guys that were batting in the 7-hole or later, which is just incredible. All right. Let's get into it. Enough of the recap. Oakland and Baltimore. Brett Anderson listed as the starter for today. He hasn't pitched since the 27th of August, so I don't know what his limitations are going to be. And then Dylan Bundy against Oakland. Bundy's allowed 37 home runs this year. It's been a disaster. He's allowed multiple home runs, I think, 9 times on the season. So you don't get a whole lot worse than that. He has been a sieve when it comes to the long ball from lefties and righties alike. What are your thoughts on this one early on?
Yeah, Anderson, I don't know. So every pitcher's probably in play on this slate. That's going to go at least a few innings. But like you mentioned, Anderson hasn't pitched in 2.5 weeks. So it's a question of how long can he go. And before this little bit of a layoff, let's see, he was going 40. He just went 49 pitches in his last outing. Got rocked, so that's probably has to do with most of it. 93 and 83 in the 2 starts before. So I don't know. I mean, if I knew we could go 80 plus pitches here against a bad Baltimore team with some strikeout potential. Now, Anderson isn't the highest strikeout guy anyways, but if I knew we could go 80 plus pitches, I'd probably have interest in Anderson. Have you heard anything as far as a pitch count here or what they're kind of expecting as far as innings?
No, that's the problem. I mean, Brett Anderson is not somebody that has, colossal upside to begin with. So we'd want to know that he wasn't super limited, but it's tough. So he didn't make any rehab appearances, huh? I guess he just threw bullpen sessions.
Yeah, I let's see.
Because the last time he pitched in the minors was July. So I guess this was a shorter stint, which is kind of a good sign because they didn't feel like they needed to send him down to get a rehab start. I think that's probably a good thing. He threw 45 in a simulated game. I'd probably put him around like 70.
Yeah, I mean, if this was like a glass now guy, someone super volatile like that has this big ceiling with a limited pitch count, and could just go down and mow a team down in 5 innings with 6 or 7 strikeouts, I would probably want Anderson here. But he's just not that at all. Like on the year, 7% swinging strike rate, good chase rate, but under 13% K rate for the entire season. So even if he does go 5 innings here, I don't think you're going to see more than a couple strikeouts at the most.
Yeah, me neither. I think pretty much when it comes, I don't know. I'm torn here because pitching really is not good. And if there's one thing that Anderson is capable of doing is that he actually can work relatively efficiently. And one of the reasons is because he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like he could
True.
literally go 7 innings with 75 pitches. which obviously that's like your best outcome. But if he does that, how many strikeouts is he getting? And granted, strikeouts don't really impact pitch count, but I feel like if he was cheaper, it would be a lot more sensible to consider him. But he's not that cheap. Like he's still what the seventh highest or sixth highest priced pitcher on a 5-game slate. It's not you're not getting a massive discount on a guy that's already not that good.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm thinking about this a little bit wrong. It's a 5-game slate. I mean, if he can get you 12 or 13 here, that might be enough because, like, where else are you going to go for a low tier pitcher? There's no one in his range. He's in a range by himself besides Bundy. And then you either going down to Gonsalves, Philmeyer, or up to a guy like Gomber, who I don't like at all. So
Right.
he's in play for sure. I just fear that he might become chalky because of him being a big favorite and going up against a team that people like to target against.
So I think we should go through these games and then circle back to this one
Sure.
to see if it makes sense because once we get through all of the games, maybe it'll be more logical to see whether or not he actually is a reasonable play and if we need him or not. So what else do you like in this game, if anything? Are you looking to pick on Dylan Bundy, who again leads the league in home runs allowed, which to me is a big deal. I home run per 9 splits, just home runs allowed in general to whichever side of the plate to me are a really important stat. Home runs win tournament. Home runs and stolen bases, as we saw with the Royals, they scored only 2 runs and still had a lot of stolen bases yesterday. Bundy has allowed 37 home runs on the season, which is the most of any qualified pitcher. The next qualified pitcher has allowed only 29. That's Chase Anderson. And then Bartolo Colon's not qualified, but he's allowed 30. It just goes to show you, like, Bundy has far and away had the worst homer problem in the league this year.
Yeah, I mean, 11 straight starts, giving up at least a home run, and you're seeing multiple in most of those. He's getting up to 2 and 3, and I mean, he's just got such a propensity to implode at any second. And he's at home. There's wind blowing in, but it is hot and humid here. Probably the best hitting environment on the night, taking in park, humidity, just temperature overall. So it's just a really, really dangerous matchup. You've got a taxed bullpen too. Oakland got into it extremely quick last night. And so it's just going to be really tough for Bundy. Maybe they ask him to go deeper. Maybe they let him go if he gives up a couple runs early. So I guess that's a positive. And it is going to be a really good leverage spot if Bundy can pitch well. I'm more on the Oakland side, but I will have some Bundy if I'm playing 150 because I think it's kind of foolish not to. You're going to see these Oakland bats super chalky. And Bundy, yeah, he's going to give up a lot of hard contact, but if this is the game where he's able to limit them to 1 home run and maybe it's a solo shot and he can give you 6 to 8 strikeouts, you're going to be way ahead of the field in tournaments if he can put together a good start.
Yeah, I agree. He's cheap enough for me to consider. And again, if it turns out that Anderson looks to be very popular, then it just makes even more sense to play Bundy, who's actually cheaper than Brett Anderson. Really similar approach with Odorizzi yesterday, right? Because, people were laughing in chat about Odorizzi, but it sometimes you just don't overthink things. Like sometimes you realize that it's baseball, it's a volatile sport, and Odorizzi strikes out a batter per inning, and if he has a decent game, well, he can get you there. And he didn't even have that many strikeouts, but he was cheap, and there weren't a lot of cheap options. Kind of similar with Dylan Bundy in that the guy is not good or he's not great, but he still strikes out north of a batter per inning, and that's good, right? Like he still has the upside to not kill you and to actually give you a decent game if he's not allowing a ton of home runs. I mean, his K rate on the season is 24%. A guy at 6,300 having a 24% K rate with 9.5 Ks per 9, that has to at least be considered.
Yeah, like he's got good stuff. There's no doubt about it. It's just
Mhm.
he can't control it, and he makes a lot of mistakes. Um, as you said, baseball's super variance-based sport. So if this is the night where he puts together a solid start, you're not only getting his points on DK or FanDuel wherever you're playing, you're also burying all these Oakland stats stacks in the process. As long as he's not giving up 4 solo dongs, if he gives up one or
Right.
two, you're probably okay. Um, if he gets the strikeouts. So I think it makes sense to play both sides of this. If you were single entering, would you have either side of this? I guess that's probably a good question we should ask.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, Bundy's allowing more than 2 home runs per nine to lefties and righties this year.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But he's striking righties out at 30%. So the one thing I'd like to see is how many righties are going to be in this lineup for Oakland. Yesterday we had one, two, three, four, five. We had 6 righties. If we see a lineup like that where you have 6 righties, majority righty lineup, then yeah, I think I probably will take a look at Bundy, even in a single entry lineup over Oakland, because there's absolute. Now we should be clear, Oakland still has a lot of upside on a slate like this. We're talking just strictly ownership. But yeah, I think that Bundy, I think there is enough leverage there with his 30% K rate against righties, with 6 righties in the lineup, where that would be enough to have me look his way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. So I think good discussion for sure on Bundy against the Oakland Bats.
Yeah, this should end well. All right, let's talk about Toronto and Boston. Eduardo Rodriguez uh, at home against Sam Gaviglio and Toronto. Gaviglio has kind of been all over the map this year. He does a few things well, a few things really poorly. Um, Pretty surprisingly, Gaviglio's K rate has kind of soared through the roof compared to other seasons, or not to other seasons, compared to earlier this season. I mean, he hasn't been bad. His swinging strike rate is around 9.2%. So really, compared to last year, where he came up and was highly underwhelming, Gaviglio has at least been a little better this year, just from an overall strikeout standpoint. But he's really come back down to earth lately, and you're beginning to see him, cough up a lot more runs. And then Eduardo Rodriguez on the other side is just a good pitcher, but a good pitcher that literally can never. I don't know if Eduardo Rodriguez has ever gone more than 6 innings at the major league level.
It seems like that, right? Like, so
Mhm.
he had one. Well, actually, let's see. That's interesting to look at now. Now you got me curious.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's done it. This. I'm sure he's done it. Obviously, I was being. I was
It's
joking, but I do think. I don't know if he's done it this year.
it's 6 2/3 twice. Um,
Okay.
I mean that's just weird for a guy that people love playing so much in DFS. He doesn't go deep. He does have those spike strikeout games, 9, 10. He's got a 12 strikeout game very recently. That was against the White Sox, so a little bit different here. I don't think this is that soft of a matchup for Erod, but I do have interest in him just because he's such a big favorite, and you just need the raw points on this slate. On the other side, I think if you're targeting against Eduardo, I like Gurriel and Grichuk. I think just really good values there. 3,600 for Gurriel, dual position eligibility, and then Grichuk just has big power, and he's under 4K as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Erod here quite a bit, and one of the reasons that he kind of stands out to me is that he's one of the few guys in baseball that has, I think, legitimate reverse splits, and we've seen this year. He has a swinging strike rate of 12.5 against right-handed hitters. He's holding lefties and righties to a sub 300 weighted on base average, right? Not a big power guy. Interestingly, the K rate has flipped this year. He's striking out more lefties, 37% across 95 lefties. He's faced almost 400 righties and is striking them out at 23.5%, though, which isn't a bad number. I mean, yeah, it's lower considerably, but it's not a bad number when you factor in all of his other peripherals. Like, he doesn't give up hard contact. He doesn't give up a lot of home runs. He doesn't, surprisingly, his walk rate is pretty low this year. It's just that he labors through at bats. It's not even that he's walking a lot of guys, but yeah, no, I think Erod's very much in play here. It's a slightly dangerous matchup. I think we both agree that Toronto can do some damage, but they haven't really looked that great recently. We saw what David Price did last night. So it's not a matchup that I'm staying away from either. And the Blue Jays against pitchers from the left side of the plate, like we saw with David Price, there's some upside in the opposing pitching. And this is not a deep pitching slate at all.
Yeah, so you said that they've been not looking the same. 284 on base percentage against lefties since August 1st, and 81 WRC plus. 156 ISO is, average. They're striking out above league average in that span, and not walking really at all. Just a 6.3%. 367 against lefties in that span.
Interesting.
So, not a perfect sample.
I wonder if that's even factored last night's start against Price in yet.
I don't know. Does FanGraphs update overnight?
That takes a little time sometimes.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if it hadn't updated yet. Even if it had, you're right. They haven't been that great lately. Erod's not egregiously overpriced either. I think this, considering the slate, is a pretty reasonable salary for him. I don't really see anything wrong with it at all.
Yeah, I think you're going to be able to fit in some Erod Kershaw lineups. The question is, is that going to force you into having to go to Baltimore, or having to go to a Kansas City, which I kind of like both sides of that, but I'm just interested to see what the crunches look like later when we do them, if you can fit in a Kershaw and Erod, because I don't think they're too overpriced, especially not Erod.
Yeah, I'm also curious to see if everyone's going to jam in Kershaw, or because let's see, if you were to play Kershaw and Erod, you have $3,600 per bat remaining. Is it doable? Yeah, but it's not easy to make. It's not easy to produce quality lineups with 3,600 remaining. So be curious to see if people jam in Kershaw and then pair him with Brett Anderson, which I'm now thinking is going to be very popular, or if they fade him, go with Erod, and then a cheaper pitcher. Because in that event, if you play Erod and one of those 6K guys, you can pretty much do whatever you want with the lineup. So it'll be interesting to see what is the popular pitching pairing here on a 5-game slate.
Yeah, and so just trying to do that right now, just trying to see if I can fit in those two. Running 5-man stacks. Yeah, it looks like you're going to have to get to the Twins, the Royals, or the Orioles if you're going that route. So, it kind of forces you to, if you're going Erod Kershaw, kind of forces you into one of just a couple teams. Whereas if you go Kershaw, Anderson, you're going to be able to afford some of these Boston bats. You're going to be able to afford the Oakland bats.
Yeah. And I think you're going to want to have some of those. Where are you at on these Boston bats here against Gaviglio?
Yeah, so this is another one where Gaviglio, he really struggles at a couple things with lefties just overall, and then holding runners. So Betts and Benintendi get a huge boost for me. I'm just looking now to see if Bogarts has been stealing at all. It doesn't look like he's... 6 stolen bases for the season. That's not crazy. He's just not really attempting them, though, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
He has speed. Maybe just doesn't need to with a lineup that's stacked. You don't need to run yourself into potential outs. But yeah, I don't see this going well for Gaviglio. I love Betts and Benintendi especially, but really anyone in this lineup is in play, maybe outside of Vasquez. I don't like that even for 3K. I just think everyone's going to slot him in because he plays for the Red Sox, and do want to stack up the Red Sox, but I'd rather try to go down and get Jackie Bradley or someone instead if I'm stacking up the Red Sox.
Yeah, for sure. You obviously, if you have the salary, then I'm not against it, because these top of the lineup guys are nasty. And yesterday was was definitely disappointing for anyone that was, heavy on the Red Sox. And Aaron Sanchez will do that to you once in a while. But man, that was certainly a surprising lack of performance from them. Aaron Sanchez went 7 one-run innings with 6 strikeouts. And again, it's baseball. That stuff happens. Uh, and I think Boston is in a more favorable spot here because, Sanchez, if there's one thing he is good at, is he really does do a good job of limiting power. Uh, that hasn't been the case with Gaviglio. Gaviglio is allowing 1.5 home runs to righties, 1 3/4 home runs per 9 to lefties with only 15% strikeouts. So there is a lot of power upside in this lineup. And yes, he gets a lot of ground balls against righties, 53%, but way down against lefties, a lot of line drives, a lot of hard contact. Definitely, as you mentioned, worse against lefties. I think it's just both sides of this offense are going to be in play. But even so, even if you were to fade Kershaw, you're still going to have to work to get in, say, Boston's outfield. If you wanted to get Boston's entire outfield, Betts, Martinez, and Benintendi in there, you're still going to have to get unless you're obviously just crunching lineups and letting it do the work for you. If you're doing a 3-max or you're hand-making lineups, you're going to have to work to get the rest of that lineup completed because you're left with only $3,400 per player once you get that outfield in there. They're so expensive.
Right. Yeah. I mean, 3 guys, 5,400 and above. On a Kershaw slate, you've got Erod at 9K. It's going to be tough. You're going to have to sacrifice at least one of those 2 guys, and you're probably going to have to sacrifice Kershaw and have Erod as your SP1 if you want to go that route. Or just double punt and go with Bundy Anderson, whatever, Phil Meyer, someone like that. So it's not pretty if you're trying to get in the Boston
and
outfield.
Bogarts is 5K as well. So that's why it's not crazy. I mean, obviously depending on who's in the lineup, but it's not crazy to consider a Mitch Moreland who is going to give you salary relief for Boston. Rafael Devers has just been terrible lately. He's just been so bad, but he's cheap. And I think, you will get some of these cheaper bats in the lineup. Maybe Nunez will be there, but they're definitely going to be bottom of the order guys. Like Brock Holt doesn't get you very excited, and he's not even cheap. So, yeah, it's always a tough team to stack. You want to move on, or you got anything else on this one?
I just wanted to mention Kinsler gets also a boost. He's got 13 stolen bases on the year. I didn't realize how much he had been running, so I like him as well against Gaviglio.
Yeah, fine spot for Kinsler, and another one that isn't overpriced there in the middle infield. Dodgers in St. Louis, Clayton Kershaw, Austin Gomber. Gomber's been pretty good, man. Gomber's getting the job done, and he's not a guy that for fantasy purposes you're going to get enthusiastic about playing, especially not at this price tag, especially not against the Dodgers. But hey, on a 5-game slate, anything's possible. I want to know where you're at on Kershaw though, because he's still Kershaw is still very good, but he's not the current Kershaw. He's not prime Kershaw. He's not when Kershaw was looking like the best. I mean, in my era, I don't know if I've ever lived through a better pitcher, being able to watch him every day when I was actually in the baseball than Clayton Kershaw. That's how dominant a reign he's had at the top of Major League Baseball. But he's not the same. He's still very good, but he's not the same as he was. I think that's a pretty fair statement.
No, I agree. And I think if you would have asked me a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I would say complete fade Kershaw in the spot. But over his last 5 starts, 36 innings, 35 strikeouts, he's getting way more swinging strikes after that one weird 1 strikeout game in Oakland, I believe it was. Just kind of a head scratcher there. He's just looked really good and not to the point of Kershaw of old. I don't think we'll probably ever see him there again. But still a very good starting pitcher, probably a top 10 pitcher in the MLB still. I mean, he's just been so good at missing bats that you kind of, thinking in terms of raw points, he's just got such a good chance of leading the slate with 25 points here. Even against all these righties, it's not a perfect matchup, but yeah, I want to get in a lot of Kershaw. If he's 50%, I think I'll come in underweight. If he's 25% or 30% of people are prioritizing bats, I'll probably come in a little bit overweight on him.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to be like 40%.
Okay.
I mean, it's just a guess. My guess is as good as yours, but that's what I'm thinking right now. Just name recognition alone, people love Kershaw. Obviously, you have sharper players now than you used to, so it's not as much of like, okay, he's everyone knows who he is, so he's going to be popular. I certainly don't think that's the case, but I do think that on a slate like this with Clayton Kershaw, people are going to try and jam it, man. I do, but we'll see. We don't have the ownership projections out just yet, but against it's kind of like it doesn't even matter for Kershaw what the matchup is when it's such a short slate. You're just playing him because he's good and he has, I do think that he still has slate breaking upside, which is really all you care about on a slate like this.
Yeah, and just for Kershaw to not be the nuts, I'm just trying to think of scenarios on this 5-game slate. You're gonna need some really expensive bats to go off. In order for, like, if Kershaw puts up 25, 30 here, for you to have him, or for you to have a successful lineup without him, you're going to need like Betts, Benintendi, and or JD to go nuts. Guys that you can't fit in with Kershaw. Or you're going to need the top half of Boston just to go nuts. So I think you're kind of choosing between super expensive bats or Kershaw on this slate. I think that's what it comes down to for me.
It's a good point. Because you're going to see polar opposites in lineup construction today. There's no real way that you can reconcile the two. There's no way that you can play a top hitting lineup with Kershaw, and there's no real way that you're going to play the same bats in a non-Kershaw lineup as you would with the Kershaw lineup, because at least a lot of the bats you're going to be playing in a Kershaw lineup are guys that are in there because you have Kershaw. And I think you're going to see entirely different types of lineups today where one maybe both work. It's possible. It's possible that Kershaw has a huge game and the Red Sox score 10 runs. Like it's not out of the question at all. But the one thing about Kershaw that's really interesting this year is he is not from a strikeout standpoint displayed reverse splits, but in terms of just limiting overall damage, he's allowing half the home runs to righties. The K rate's pretty much the same, give or take a percent. A 256 WOBA to righties. He is absolutely shut right-handed hitting down. His ground ball rate's 52% against them. Really interesting because generally he was never really had any splits, and recently you're starting to see him with fewer, less extreme splits than before. But this is going to be a really righty-heavy lineup. My guess is you probably see 8 righties. I expect Carpenter to be the only lefty in this lineup. Adams should sit. Colton Wong should sit. So he should get 8 righties in this lineup. Or, well, I guess
Gomber's a lefty.
I was going to say, I don't know if he bat. Does he bat left?
Yeah.
He does? Okay. Yeah, so Gomber, but what is that?
Right.
Trust me, I'm not complaining about Kershaw facing a left-handed pitcher.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, I think he's pretty safe here. If you had to choose one Cardinals bat against Kershaw for leverage, or just if like last guy in type of thing in your lineup in a GPP, who would it be?
If I had to choose one, I mean, preferably none, but if I had to, probably would just be crazy enough, it might be Matt Carpenter. But okay. I really don't have there is nobody that would stand out to me as someone that I'd try and jam in there. You know who? It would one guy that just crushes lefties better than anyone in this team, Jed Jerko. hits them really, really, really well. Was just activated from the disabled list yesterday. So I'll go with Jed Jerko here. I think that's a spot that he could pay off just because he has a ton of power against lefties and always goes overlooked.
Yeah, I think it makes sense just to, like, I was looking at Ozuna or maybe Yachty at a catcher position if he comes or if he's in the lineup. I think it makes sense to sprinkle in some of these guys if you're not playing in your non-Kershaw lineups, if you're max entering.
Yeah. I mean, really, we're just throwing darts at
Yeah,
any of them, right? When
agreed.
it comes to facing Kershaw.
Yep.
What are your thoughts, though, on the Dodgers against Austin Gomber? I think this one's a little bit more difficult because I don't see any spots that I'm absolutely in love with, especially considering you're not. None of the. Well, I guess you know what? I'll take that back. These Dodgers bats have come down in price. It's just a matter of whether or not you think Gomber is legitimately good.
I Yeah, so I don't think Gomber is legitimately this good, at least for his results. On the year against righties, he's allowing a 37.7% hard hit rate. That's above average. The line drives are way up, over 25%. More fly balls than ground balls. And all that being said, just a 267 BABIP against righties. He's going to get basically all righties here except Kershaw. And righties with just a ton of power, like Turner and Machado. Matt Kemp, I love in this spot. David Freese can't do much at this point in his career, but he can hit lefties. Kike can obviously hit lefties. Grandal, I like better against righties, but he's still fine at catcher. And then you've got Dozier batting eighth, I'm seeing. It's going to be Dozier or Taylor leading off. One of them is going to be near the bottom of the lineup. But I like all these guys individually against Gomber, so I love the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to like him here. You have to. And another thing, like if you want a few signs that would suggest regression is coming for Gomber, the guy was allowing almost 1.25 home runs per nine at AAA. At Double-A, he was allowing 1.07 home runs per nine, which at the major league level is solid. At Double-A, it's like very pedestrian. So there's no way he should be allowing less than half a home run per nine at this level. It really doesn't make any sense. And if you look at his expected numbers, it all kind of comes into focus. He has a 111 ISO against righties with a 200 expected ISO, so way big discrepancy there. And then a 292 WOBA with a 350 expected WOBA. So I definitely think that Gomber has to come back down to earth here at some point. There's just nothing to suggest that he's going to keep racking up these excellent games with no power whatsoever. And if there was ever a time for him to do it, you would think, or for him, if there was ever a time for him to come back down to earth, you would definitely think it would be today. I mean, think about it. He throws he's sitting on. Oh, another thing too is his fastball is earlier in the year was sitting around 94, and now it's down to 92. If you look at Brooks Baseball, it was 94. It's down almost 2 ticks over the last month, which is interesting. And then in terms of like his pitch mix, he throws 22% slider, 24% curved. He throws the fastball almost 50% of the time. And when you look at, and I want to filter it to righties, whiffs per swing on these pitches. He has a 18% whiff per swing rate on the slider, and he's throwing that pitch. That's 18% is really bad. Throwing it 22% of the time to righties. The curveball he's throwing almost 25%. He has a 14% whip per swing rate over the last month and a half. So I'm looking at over the last since the start of August, since I saw that decline in velocity. Like none of these pitches right now are looking very good. Even on the season, they have pretty modest whip per swing rate. So I could see Gomber definitely coming back down to earth here.
Yeah, I just think the Dodgers are just so cheap. Like you're getting everyone under 5K, Machado and Turner especially, and these guys are decent values too. Freese, Kemp, Kike, all the guys that we mentioned before. So Yeah, I think this is a good regression spot for Gomber. It may not come in this start, but I think it's coming pretty soon for him.
Yeah, I think so. And that's, the a lot of guys out there, eventually they're going to get rocked because there's just no way that you can continue pitching it above your head like this. How about Minnesota and Kansas City? Keith Philmeyer and Steven Gonsalves, a battle between two juggernauts here at Kauffman Stadium.
Yeah, Gonzalez I think is the worst pitcher on the slate, just judging by the stuff that I look at. Under 10% K rate. Yeah, he's just not good. Almost 50% hard contact. And we're getting to a sample size where you can start to make some conclusions about this guy. I just don't think he's ready for the major league level right now.
Yeah, he's not there yet.
Yeah, he just can't get any chases, can't get any swinging strikes, and you just can't do that in today's MLB when guys are so precise with their swings and they're just going to punish you on any mistake you make. The Royals, while they haven't been good against lefties, we talked about them yesterday with Rodon, they still have guys that should theoretically be good against lefties, like Merrifield, Mondesi. Alex Gordon's really cheap. I know that's Adam's guy. Hunter Dozier isn't great, but, I mean, batting cleanup against a lefty for 3,400 with dual position eligibility on DK, it's pretty appealing on a 5-game slate. They're just too cheap, the Royals are, and they're going up against a really, really bad pitcher.
Yeah, it's a little bit much to ignore. You can't. By the way, my man Ryan O'Hearns goes his first 3 plate appearances batting out of the 9 hole. He walked in all 3 of them. I was hoping he had a full count in the 4th. I wonder when the last time a 9-hole hitter went 0 for 0 with 4 walks. That you don't see that very often.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard of that.
Yeah, I mean usually they're just shit players that they throw back there and hope that they don't ground into a double play. But O'Hearns, I guess he'll probably bat 9th again against the lefty. He's been so good against righties though. Not really any value in this slate, but Salvador Perez was a guy I needed something from him yesterday because I went with a build that was a little different with the 4-4 Oakland Kansas City stack, and everyone else for Kansas City had come through just on stolen bases alone. And Salvador Perez, what do you have? Oh, he did double towards the end, but still, I mean, I really needed something from him. I'm willing to run him back out there because he does have power against lefties, and that's really all we care about. Like Perez not hitting for average, pretty underwhelming season on the whole, but overall, he's still somebody that has, against lefties over the past couple of years, pretty solid numbers in the power department. And it's a catcher. That's all we need. You don't need any more than that. You're not looking for your catcher to hit for average. Most of them suck. So as long as you can give me, Salvador Perez has a 205 or 10 ISO over the last 3 years against lefties. I'm with you. He's in play. I love Merrifield here. He's expensive, but he's a good play. Mondesi is another good play. And then, hell, he sucked yesterday, but Bonifacio hit cleanup, and he's down there at 3,300. He could open up a lot of things if you're playing Kershaw.
Yeah, they just open up so much here. Herrera, even in the 7 spot, if he's in dual position eligibility for under 3K on DraftKings. He's not great, but Gonsalves is not going to have the advantage against really any of these Royals hitters, I don't think. And that's saying a lot. You get a maybe average bullpen at best with the Twins afterwards. It's great weather here for hitting. Wind blowing out, 80 degrees, humid as well. So, yeah, this just screams Royal stack to me.
Yeah, I'm with you. And if Dozier's in the lineup, he's really cheap too. He was scratched yesterday, but if he's in the lineup, that just makes it more appealing. And once again, though, going back to talking about like forced roster construction, you have to think that Kershaw plus Kansas City stacks is going to be wildly popular today.
Yeah, I have to imagine that as well. What do you think about? Go ahead. What do you think about Philmeyer? I mean, he's kind of my punt option that I'm looking at here. I don't know how he's not favored here. Is what I'm wondering. I know he's not great, but Gonzalez has been awful.
Yeah, he's been trash. I mean, it's baseball, right? Honestly, like we see this happen way too much, where a guy that like I would never touch him, ends up going out and posting decent numbers. The biggest thing with Phil Meyer is he's way worse against righties. Like he's just been dreadful against righties, and I think looking at what he throws, it does make sense. A lot of times that will give you a pretty good idea, because he throws what, four-seamer, slider, curve, and the slider he throws a lot to righties, but it's not very good. Like it's just not a pitch that you rely on. And I think depending on how many righties are in this lineup, his slider's been a little better than I thought. It's been better lately, now I'm actually, I'll tell you what, now I'm actually a little bit confused. Usually when you have a decent slider, you're not going to be as bad against same-handed hitting. That does surprise me a little bit, I'll be honest. Like that I'm a little, he's actually exclusively fastball slider against righties. So
yeah,
I don't know.
He's getting more whiffs against lefties on that slider,
which is weird.
But that doesn't really make sense. I mean, his changeup isn't spectacular, but he does get some whiffs on it, at least. He's not great, but he is 4,900 and fully stretched out. He can go 100 pitches, and I think he can get you 15 DK points. I think he's much more likely than Gonzalez. That's a pretty easy decision for me there.
Yeah.
Despaigne, there's some unknown with him. So if I'm punting, I think Phil Meyer is my guy. Even against the lefty-heavy lineup, maybe that's better for him. It doesn't really make that much sense, but it's looking like that so far.
Well, you mentioned it. It doesn't make sense that he'd be this much worse against righties, but it does make sense that he'd be okay against lefties because he does have a changeup.
Yeah.
He throws it 20% of the time against lefties. He has a curveball that he's mixing in. So he does have the arsenal to be able to set lefties down. And you would think righties too, oddly enough. Maybe he's just too predictable. Maybe he's just too predictable with the just straight fastball slider to righties. With lefties, he mixes in the curveball and the slider. That actually, you know what? That might just be it. He's got more pitches that he can throw against lefties. But I don't think either of us are expecting Phil Meyer to rack up a bunch of strikeouts here. But he has a 7.9% swinging strike rate against lefties. But at the same time, if he gave you like 5 one-run innings with 3 or 4 strikeouts and got the win, that's more than enough to get you over, like way more than enough.
Exactly. That's all you're looking for, and I think he's got the best chance of that against an underwhelming Twins team.
Yeah, on the other side, I don't mind guys like Miguel Sano if he's in the lineup. Oh, never mind. He's not expected to return until the weekend. So that kind of this lineup's kind of dreadful now, right? Like other than Eddie Rosario, who I don't think I can pay for him on this slate. It's kind of rough. Jorge Polanco isn't terrible, but all in all, this is a pretty rough lineup. Maybe Tyler Austin has a lot of power, but yeah, for the most part, you look at this Twins lineup and you have to think that there's the advantage. The advantage goes to Phil Meyer. One more thing too, Mitch Garver got hit in the head yesterday with a foul ball. They said it was precautionary that they removed him, but he's easily been their best hitting catcher this year, and it's not even close. So if like Estudillo is in the lineup, then that's another upgrade for Phil Meyer because he's had a few decent games lately, but the guy's not spectacular. This Twins lineup could be really ugly today.
Yeah, I think it's going to be with Garver. I mean, I'm not crazy about him, but Astudillo, while not a great hitter, his thing is just never strikes out. Like, will not strike out at all. Right. So that's fine if he gets him to ground out or whatever. I mean, perfect.
Phil Meyer doesn't get Phil Meyer doesn't get strikeouts anyway. So
yeah,
it's basically just get a lot of ground balls, hopefully, and don't give up any home runs. He does get a lot of ground balls. He doesn't give up a lot of hard contact. Well, to righties he has, but I think you'll see a little regression there. It doesn't make sense that he should be that much worse to righties than lefties, but we'll see. We'll see. I agree with you. I think at 5,900 or 4,900, that opens up a lot. For example, if you were to pair Kershaw with him, then you have a whole lot more room to work with, like a whole lot more room, especially if you had Erod and Philmeyer, like you can full stack Boston rather comfortably.
Yeah, that's what I'm eyeing down right here too. He just opens up so much, and you get like one or two Royals bats in there, and you just take your pick at everyone on the slate. Dodgers, A's, Red Sox, of course. So
yeah, it's a good spot, and not only that, I think Philmeyer with Royals bats if you want to get Kershaw in there, it's another way to do it, make it a little different. What do you think his ownership will be, just based on the fact, there were people playing Eric Skoglund yesterday. So if people are going to play Skoglund on like a 65 to 70 pitch count, my guess is that on a 5-game slate, people will play Philmeyer.
I think he should be one of the chalkier pitchers. I don't know that he will be. I would say my guess right now would be like 25-30%.
Okay.
What would you say?
I think you're probably right. It really all depends on how many people play Brett Anderson. Like, I don't think many people are going to share the same sentiment as you and myself on Bundy. That, like, for example, I think Mengden was 1.25% owned in the $10 yesterday.
Wow.
And I think Odorizzi was like, do you know what he was in the mini max? Do you know? Because I know you had a bunch of him too.
Of Mengden?
No, Odorizzi.
Oh man, he was like 1.5-2%, I think, if I remember.
Right.
I could probably look that up. But,
right. So the type of leverage that you gain there is just huge, especially on a 5-game slate. So I really have no problem doing it with Bundy if Philmeyer is going to be like the chalk SP2, only because Philmeyer is not going, like, fading Philmeyer, the odds of it killing you are very, 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 very slim. And it's not like Bundy's that much more expensive than him. So if he is going to be like 30+%, which is possible on such a small slate, then I have no problem going to Bundy, even though he's been pretty bad.
So Odorizzi was actually 7.5.
Okay. Still pretty low, though.
No, yeah, that is low. I had 30%, so
yeah,
I still had quite a big ownership advantage there when he put up 26. But
he had a no-hitter in the 7th.
Yeah, I was watching that with a couple of my roommates, and they love the Twins, and I don't, so it's funny to watch them get excited about a no-hitter.
You're a Minnesota guy, I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely merit to getting away from him, but we have to see what we expect from ownership. That's a big thing on a 5-game slate. Like, you have, and I don't even think you have to differentiate everywhere. That's the thing. Some people, feel like every player in their lineup has to be different than the field. Like, if you just differentiate on 1 or 2 spots and you're like wildly different than the field there, sometimes that's all that matters.
No, you're exactly right. I think it's a good point to bring up too, is that, and I've done this in the past. I'm sure I've done it recently, where you just kind of you hear people talking about like leverage on these short slates, and like, that doesn't mean going full stack against Kershaw. It means,
right. Exactly.
Maybe you play a guy that you don't like Philmeyer, or Gonzalez, if you think he can turn it around. I don't think anything's out of the question here. But it means maybe you take an Ozuna or Carpenter against Kershaw if you're not playing him, and get leverage. If that guy dongs, you're just destroying the field. Or maybe you play a Grichuk or Gurriel or Travis or someone like that against the chalk pitcher. So, no, that's a really good point to bring up.
All right, let's hit the last game here, Jake. And then if you wanted to crunch, we can do that as well. There's only, by the way, there's only 2 games for the early slate, and it's horrible.
Yeah,
So
don't play that.
yeah, just in case you don't feel like clicking, for those of you that are watching today's stream, Kyle Freeland and Clay Buchholz at Coors, Mike Montgomery and Joe Ross at National Stadium. Joe Ross didn't even make a start at the major league level since returning from that. I think it was Tommy John, because he got rained out last time. So it's an ugly one. I'll play because I have problems, but definitely not a slate that you want to analyze. It's really just like throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. That's all it is.
I honestly, like, just looking at this for 5 seconds, I would play Freeland there almost certainly.
So would I.
I mean, he's just
100%.
People stack against him way too often. They're going to do it here on a 2-game slate because you can just go, oh, I'll just play Montgomery, Ross, and stack Coors because everyone loves stacking Coors. But
Yep.
I think playing pitchers in Coors, while it's become more popular, there's still a huge edge in that, especially on shorter slates. People just refuse to play pitchers in Coors. But if you can miss bats or create ground balls at a 60% rate like Freeland, you can have a lot of success at low ownership.
Yep. You know what? I was thinking about this a little while ago. You know why I think playing pitchers in Coors has also been a little bit more popular this year is because the Rockies finally have a decent rotation. And it's been a very long time since the Rockies have had a viable rotation outside of John Gray.
Right. And, like, kudos to them for getting guys like Marquez. I mean, Marquez is going to be good wherever he goes, but guys that and working with them to throw the correct pitches in Coors, like throw these hard sliders and these
even
fastballs.
Anderson and Freeland. Even guys like Anderson and Freeland,
like lay off the looping curve, just it's just not gonna work. Like it just physics makes it impossible for it to be successful long term.
Yeah, the looping curve that doesn't loop at Coors. Even Senzatella, like, obviously the guy's not good, but he knows what to throw at Coors. Marquez is becoming a legitimately elite pitcher.
Oh my God, he's such a stud.
Yeah, it's incredible. So yeah, you have better Coors pitchers or better Colorado pitchers. Honestly, I think even Buchholz would be interesting here because the Rockies are just so much better against lefties at home, and Buchholz has been surprisingly really good, and it's just like I wouldn't be surprised to see this game be like a 4-3 final. I really wouldn't be surprised.
Oh yeah, I think that's pretty likely actually.
Yeah. So maybe I'll play a little bit. Maybe I'll play both Coors, honestly, and then we can move on. I think I might play. I'm going to play a little bit, and I'm going to play Freeland and Buchholz, and then I'm going to stack the Cubs and the Nationals. That's what I might do.
I think that's pretty sharp. Just it's a 2-game slate. Have some fun. Get some leverage. Don't like. I don't know. I mean, just get a low-owned guy or two, whether it's pitcher or hitter. You got to gain leverage on the field on a 2-gamer. And literally anything is in play, like a 6, 7, 8, 9, or 6, 5, 6, 7, 8 stack. You could do whatever you want.
And it's not even just for leverage. It's like I actually like hitters from that Washington game more, but people are so drawn to Coors that it won't matter. So have a little fun with that. All right, Seattle and LA, Mike Leake and Odrisamer Despaigne. This guy, dude, you want to talk about he's like the toughest guy to ever evaluate because no matter how bad Despaigne is, no matter how many runs he allows, his whole career, he never gives up power. Like, he can suck. He can finish with a 7 ERA with like 3 home runs on the year. It's just insane. Not a lot of stolen bases, but he's just not good. He's a very strange case study. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, trying to like figure out, like, going through game logs, swinging strike, looking at just like plate discipline stuff. I mean, you just can't really get a read on this guy. Like you said, he allows earned runs, but just 3 homers in 32 innings this year. I mean, that's nothing. Like, that's pretty impressive.
And his whole career too. Like, go back to his whole career, no home runs.
Yeah, so I really don't like. I wish I had a strong take on what to do with him here because I don't even know how long he's going to go. He threw 23 pitches in his last outing, and before that, like he's made a start a couple weeks ago where he threw 86 and threw 87 the start before that. So, I mean, do you have any sort of read on how long he can go? Because if he can go even like 4 or 5 innings, I think he's in play on this slate with Kershaw and Erod and a ton of big bats.
So I don't see why he couldn't go at least 70 pitches or so. I mean, okay, so for example, he threw. Oh no, you know what? I was gonna say earlier this year he went 4 pitches and then a week later he threw 76. But that's because I guess he made like a 1-out relief appearance out of the bullpen. I This is a guy who has always been a starter, or not always, but he has always been. He's been in starting rotations. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's crazy to think that he could give you like 70 or so pitches, but it's definitely it's hard to say. I'm trying to find something here. So. All right, Thursday game. Okay, so it was initially expected to be a bullpen game, and now Despaignet's pitching. I would say, like probably 4 innings max.
Okay,
would be my guess. It's just a guess, but.
So, God, I mean, I wanted to use him over like Gonsalves, so I didn't have all my punt equity in Heath Fillmyer, but. It's looking more and more likely where if I'm going down to this punt range, it's just going to be all Fillmyer. So.
Yeah. It probably is going to I don't even know if there's any upside in Despaigne at all, even at his price. Like I don't know if it's reasonable at all. Like okay. I could be wrong, but I don't see it personally. And another thing too is this dude is definitely laboring even when he does start. Like look at his pitches per inning. They're like insane. The amount of pitches that this guy is throwing per inning. He on the season he's averaging 23 pitches per inning.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. The only pitcher that is worse, the only starter that is worse, Steven Gonsalves.
Oh God.
The only one. So there you go.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. So I don't think I can go there. Mike Leake on the other side. I would have had interest in Leake. The problem is you're not really getting a discount. Like where there's nothing. Unless you're saying that nobody's going to play Mike Leake, and that's why you want to do it. That for me, that would be the only reason to consider him. But I don't think it's the greatest spot here either.
Yeah, Leake. I mean, what kind of upside does he have at this price, really?
Against the Angels, too.
Yeah,
they don't strike out.
Yeah, they just don't really strike out that much. He's got power with Calhoun, Ohtani, and Jose Miguel Fernandez, who probably will be one of the higher-owned players in the slate. He's just way too cheap, and he makes for a really good filler if you're going to a guy like Kershaw. Like, just way too cheap for a guy that has a decent chance to hit a homer and already did it last night, recency bias, all that. So, I mean, there are a bunch of guys that I like, Trout, obviously, and Ohtani. Yeah, I don't think Leake's going to kill me tonight. I'd rather take a shot on Bundy at 6,300 and get leverage because I don't think the Angels bats are going to be super, super popular. I think they're going to be like the 4th highest owned stack. I don't know. What's your read?
Yeah, the Angels are pretty good now that they've gotten healthy. Like now that Trout's healthy and Ohtani needs Tommy John, but all he does is hit home runs.
Right.
It's really amazing. It's funny, like since the Tommy John surgery was announced, he's got like 3 home runs, 3 doubles, a triple, 10 RBIs, and that was a week ago. It's insane, man. It's just insane. So he's awesome. He absolutely annihilates right-handed pitching. This is another team, though. Keep in mind, like this is another team that will be hard to fit. You're if you're looking to get in, this is very similar. Well, actually, it is similar to Boston. Outside of there's two really expensive guys, but what I like is look at Calhoun's price. Calhoun's $3,700. Upton's down to 39, and he's hitting righties way better than lefties this year. The only thing that sucks is the four guys on this team that you like the most, you can only play three of them on DraftKings.
Yeah, exactly. That's just four outfielders. God, that does suck. So that too is going to make them lower owned, I think, just because people will be like, whatever. I'll just scrap the Angels stack or whatever, just because it's expensive and you can't fit in all the best parts of it. Like it's impossible on DK. So, and I know that's where I think both of us play the majority of our volume. You're mostly DK, right?
Yeah, correct. And not a huge FanDuel guy. Nothing against it. Just prefer DraftKings. Fernandez is 2,900. Like this guy's dirt cheap. Everyone's just really, really cheap. So even David Fletcher, who could bat second again, is really cheap. This whole team, man, is outside of. So I guess if you're doing like a 5-person stack and you put in Trout, Ohtani, and then let's say Calhoun, and then you wanted to work in Fernandez with, I'll say you could do Fletcher, or we'll go with Andrelton Simmons because he's surprisingly, dude. Simmons has been raking lately. Throw Simmons in there. You actually, if you were to play Kershaw with Heath Fillmyer and you had that 5-player Angel stack, you still have 3,800 remaining. Like that's actually a really, really, really feasible stack where you can get outside of one of the outfielders, you can get all of the preferred bats in for the Angels. So the more I just toy around with lineups right now early in the morning, it seems like it definitely fits better than a lot of these other lineups. One being Boston, of course, in terms of stacks.
Yeah. So all right, let's look at stacks and see what we could do with kind of each different type of construction here. You mentioned the Angels; they weren't coming up for me, so I just quick recrunched. I'll let this run for a little while. You see who's popping up here. I'm just doing 4-3-1s to try to get a different look. Usually do 5-2-1s, and I may end up doing that tonight. But like you see the Mets pop up, they shouldn't be in there, but whatever. We'll leave it in for now. Just ignore the Mets Marlins if they pop up at all.
Why don't just go ahead and exclude the game real quick?
How do I do that? Oh, game
go
filter.
To yeah.
Does that just take them away so you can't see them, or does that?
No, it takes them out of your player.
Okay, because I know on some other optimizers it doesn't. Here.
Yeah, it'll just pop them right out.
Okay, that's good to know. I'm still learning Fantasy Cruncher with our subscribers, so.
Yeah, there you go. And you want to tell them about the whole Fantasy Cruncher opportunities?
Yeah, so you guys, if you sign up for Premium for a free trial, you get a 1-week free trial with promo code Strategy Show. And with that, you still get access until the end of the day tomorrow, I believe. It's either today or tomorrow, but just do it now if you haven't signed up. Promo code Strategy Show, you get access to Fantasy Cruncher, which is right on the Osmo website. So I'll just show you how to get to that. MLB projections are right here, but you'll want to go to here. You can go build your NFL Thursday night lineups. They have a showdown, or you can just go right here. And I'm just on the, I've just got this on the other tab here. So I had it all up. I think I'm just on the Fantasy Cruncher. Oh no, I'm on the Osmo Fantasy Cruncher. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, so we'll let this. This is probably a good enough sample. Here we go. So you like the Angels stack? So there's 4-man. Can you see my screen on Skype?
I can.
All right. 4-man Calhoun, Trout, Ohtani, Fletcher, with a 3-man Dodgers and Jorge Polanco. But the problem is right here, Gaviglio.
Right.
Um,
but you could easily,
you could probably
just
get him out, go,
pull him pull him out, and
maybe go.
if you were to just like swap out Polanco for a cheaper bat or something like that, you get Philmeyer in there quite easily.
Yeah, you'd have to go like, I'm trying to think what we could do here.
Yeah, I mean, I it's tough because you have the
Beckham.
three Dodgers. Because Fernandez is a lot cheaper than Fletcher, but he's only first base eligible. So
Yeah, so maybe if you go like Hunter Dozier, you go here, and then Philmeyer.
yeah,
That's pretty.
yeah. I
That's pretty
mean,
good looking lineup.
that's not bad at all. Or take Dozier out for Jose Fernandez. You have and then
Ah, there you
yeah,
go.
and then
5-3.
yeah, yep. Yeah, that's not ugly at all. I mean, I like that,
Yeah.
and
Um,
that's 5,000 flat.
that's pretty good. I mean, the only problem with so what's your take on leaving salary on the table for a short slate like this?
I mean, if I like the lineup, it's really just if I like the lineup. If you like it, don't don't mess around with it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as well. Um, and there will be some slates where the pricing I think is pretty good here, where you're not gonna find it necessary to leave 1,500 on the table. But on these shorter slates, I'll go to like advanced settings here and just I'll change this maybe to 4,800 and then scroll through the lineups at the end and see if there's anything that needs to be upgraded. Like if you could go up from, let's say, a Calhoun to Trout one off for whatever reason,
Right.
then yeah, I think that's a manual change I'll make. But yeah, I don't mind leaving some salary on the table if I like the lineup. It's going to be contrarian in itself because people, for whatever reason, new players, casual players, they want to just use up that salary cap because they think just because a player is higher priced that they're a better play. But that's obviously not the case, especially in a sport so high variant
Especially
like baseball.
especially in baseball. I mean, like nothing else, especially in baseball. It is baseball is one where just because it's a higher price guy, that means nothing. Like, obviously sometimes it might, but that is entirely it's irrelevant when you have like for example, Cole Calhoun um, Cole Calhoun is going to be a much better play than Teoscar Hernandez or something, even
Yeah,
though he's a lot cheaper than him. It's just you're right. Baseball is so much different in that regard.
yeah, exactly. Let's look at like a Oakland stack here. Seeing Leak, Philmeyer, Oakland with Betts, JD, and Bogarts. I don't know if Fowler's going to be in this lineup, so that might have to change. But you get the idea. Wow, like I saw one of those like Philmeyer Gonzalez, and I don't know if I would want to roll that out, but it looked really good in the cruncher. Or it was Philmeyer, Brett Anderson. You get all three uh, Red Sox outfielders, Machado, and then a four man Oakland stack. So
It's not bad at all.
no, I mean if those guys can both get you double digits and Kershaw doesn't go crazy and then Erod doesn't go crazy, uh, just a couple home runs and you're just crushing the field.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do stuff on this slate. It's just I think it's more so getting a little bit just trying to get leverage in one or two spots. I don't think you need to do it everywhere at all. I like you don't if you're getting different with pitcher, you don't need to go crazy and play like you don't need to go crazy and play a Toronto stack. Like the stuff like that is not necessary. And yeah, I think it's really that simple.
Yeah, agreed. Anything else you want to look at before we get out of here?
No, I think we're good.
All right.
Go ahead. You know what? Go out to the game filter and do the early slate, and just let's run something. Let's lock in Montgomery, or let's lock in Buckholz and is it Freeland, and see what we get. I'm curious to see what it tosses at us.
Freeland Buckholz. All right. Should we? You want to do stacks? We'll do
Yeah.
We'll do 4-3-1 Cubs stacks with. Haters at 100. All right, we're good to go there.
Yeah, see, you could cut, you can do whatever you want. Look at this. I mean, it's not crazy at all. I mean, obviously, there's a ton of risk in that you're fading Coors, but I kind of like it. Like
Oh yeah.
I'm not against it at all. I really think this could be a very low scoring course. Like I want to see what the implied run totals here are. Um,
Looks like at Coors
they're
it's
not even.
10.
Yeah, I'm seeing. Oh yeah, 10. Uh, 5.5 for 5.5 for Colorado. 4.7 right now for Arizona, but that's really not even that high for Coors Field. So yeah, I don't think it's crazy, man. I think it's definitely doable.
Yeah, for sure. I,
And
I like
that's
this strategy a lot on a two gamer.
yeah. Now, granted, uh, this is this is like a 2 game slate. So if you're doing it, it's more so just because you want to have something to watch throughout the day, not because you think that your chances are better than anyone else's. Because it's seriously like
This is
there's
gambling.
really not much to. Yeah, exactly. There's not much to do on this slate.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
No. Good show. I feel like I learned a lot, kind of picking your brain. So, thank you guys for joining us. Any last words for you, Laffy?
No, I think we're good, man. Good stuff. And then we got three fellas talking football coming up
Yeah.
today. Andrew Barron, Ben Rasa, and myself. It's a fun show. We get you prepped for Sunday and really just dive into everything that's going on throughout the week to get you ready before our show on Sunday morning. And you have the Live Until Lock show coming
Uh,
up right before lock.
I won't be on that actually. I'll
No?
be gone.
Oh
But
yeah,
Chris,
you're going to it. That's right. You got a
yeah,
bachelor party to go to.
yeah, kind of crazy weekend. And we don't have Josh, so keep tweeting at Josh with words of encouragement and stuff. He's in pretty good spirits, just waiting it out. But yeah, keep tweeting at him. I know it means a lot to him. Osmo will have his, let's see, it's Thursday, top pitcher article, a perfect pitcher article. We'll have the daily game plan, email, more NFL content coming out. Your show, Laffy, with Andrew and Ben, correct?
Correct. And the
Yeah,
deeper dive today with
deeper dive.
Adam. So for anyone that's looking for more baseball content, that'll be out, or that'll be streaming live at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, so thanks again for joining us. Thanks for filling in, Laffy. And we will see you very soon.
Peace.